So we are live, so we should be good. Ooh, let's give it a couple seconds. Every time I go outside, I start sweating when I come back in. Eh. All right. Rashad, try to keep it PG for the kids at home. All right. Give it a couple of seconds here. All right, for anybody coming on, if the microphone sounds good, let me know if we got good sound. Because last time I was told the mic wasn't working too good. So I see one person came in. Don't be shy. Let me know. Is the mic working? I think it is, though, because when I talk, I think that thing moves. It should be all right. All right, let's go with it. All right. So welcome to a special live stream here. Got a special guest in the building. So today, yeah, we're going to be talking some wrestling. All right, some old school wrestling. And I've been wanting to do this video for a while, like I was just telling you, man. And by the way, this is cousin Jerome here. He's a wrestling historian, expert,
fanatic.
I could not do this video without you here, man. So I appreciate you being here, taking time out your day.
I appreciate you having me, man.
No doubt. So let's just get into it, man. What made you a wrestling fan? Can you remember the exact moment where you was like, I love this?
Well, really, there's no exact moment. I think I've been watching wrestling like before I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I can give someone my beginning again. So coming up as a church boy in Apostolic Church, it was very strenuous. There's no TV, there's no nothing.
Mm.
But I always got to go spend the weekends with my dad at my grandma's house.
Right.
And so what did a kid at that age do? You watch as much TV as you could. So I remember watching wrestling till I couldn't watch wrestling anymore. And at the time on Saturday mornings, it was Florida Championship Wrestling with Gordon Soley. And the big guy then was Dusty. So if anything I remember most about wrestling was Dusty's time here in Florida and how much he really got me to wrestling. He's talking about he used to talk people into the building. He taught me into the television because I'm telling you the truth. Whenever I knew Dusty was going to be on, I had to make sure to see what Dusty had to say or who was going to be after Dusty or whatever else was going on with the big Dust. So, But yeah, so.
You know what? That's crazy because growing up in New York, I never saw Dusty Rhodes, man. Like I saw him in the magazines and stuff.
Right.
But I never because up there it was all WWF. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? So my main exposure to wrestling was Vince McMahon and his stuff.
Right.
But then eventually TBS started airing the NWA stuff. And that's why I got introduced to the Road Warriors and all those guys.
But you got to think back then too, it was more territorial.
Right.
And so, and I'm glad you said that because I knew Florida Championship Wrestling. And here's a prime example. On the Fabulous Freebirds, when they're here in Florida, you had Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts who were here first.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept hearing him say, we got Bam Bam's coming, Bam Bam's coming, Bam Bam's coming. I'm like, who in the world is Bam Bam? And so I'm sitting here and I'm just like, okay. And, this is happening for some reason this weekend. My mom was also, I was home, so I didn't go to my grandma's house, but she lived down the road.
Yeah.
And I'm sneaking in and out of the house trying to find who in the world Bam Bam was. So I sneak out the house. Okay, he hasn't come on yet. I'll run back. Sneak out, come back. Now I realized the Bam Bam told Bam Bam Terry Gordy, who I got to see a lot of later doing when ESPN would do the replays of I would go over to after school to grandma's house. They'd do the replays of WCCW out in Dallas, Texas. So but with all that, it was something about it that where I was willing to risk getting in trouble just to see what the next best thing was going to be.
Okay.
But it was worth it on the backside.
Yeah. Okay, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. So you was introduced to the Florida wrestling before WWF.
More all the Southern stuff.
Okay.
All the Southern stuff because we had you had some, but there was a channel here. I can't remember what the channel number was. They would show wrestling. So wrestling would go off on channel 2. And by 2:00 or so, one of the UHF channels, they will go and they will show wrestling for like a couple hours. But they had GCW, a couple of local guys that would come and they would show. And so I got to see wrestle other territories, but being as young as I was, I didn't understand the territory system. I just thought, if these guys just another area, it was what it was, and wrestling was wrestling. I just didn't care, So it was just in the blood. Even to this day, I love wrestling.
Dan, well, okay, I was gonna get to that down the line too, because I wanted to go over the history, how you got started watching wrestling,
right.
And so your guy was Dusty.
Oh, absolutely.
That was your main guy
for sure.
Okay,
for sure. Dusty. I will say this though, Dusty had one flaw. If I remember watching an interview that he did, and anybody knows in Bill Watts, Mid South, he had when Dusty started, he started AWA with Captain Red and Dick Murdoch.
So you never heard of that guy. Yeah.
And so, but what people don't realize, I didn't realize as I got older, Dick Murdoch, he was part of the Klan or affiliated with the Klan per se, which I found amazing because when he was in Mid-South, he tagged with the Junkyard Dog. And if anybody tried to mess with Dog, he protected him. But I said all that to say this. The thing that got me about it was with Dusty was saying, and he said, well, Dickie just grew up in a different time. Dickie just grew up in a different time. He wasn't justifying what he was saying, but what my issue was, you don't say he came from a different time. Just say his mindset, what he was saying was wrong. His feelings were wrong. Yeah, it was a different time, but sometimes we got to call wrong for what it is, and wrong is wrong. Right, but outside of that, because I don't think Dusty had a racist bone in his body. But, and because if you look at it, he had bring Ron Simmons up. He was pivotal in wrestling when it being the first black man to win the world championship, in which Tony Atlas should have been. But I'm going to let that go. Go ahead.
Speaking of Tony Atlas, I love watching his shoots on YouTube. Tony Atlas. Right. He's hilarious, man. Like, I don't mean to make fun of the man, but, his Southern drawl is just hilarious to me.
Absolutely.
The way he pronounces certain words. He's like, Vince McMahon, McMahon, he was good to me. He was good to me,
That's right.
And, that dog, Junkyard Dog, JYD. And,
that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Oh, man. So, like I said, my introduction to wrestling was WWF. You know what I'm saying? Right. That's where, so I saw the magazines NWA. I would watch it. But being a kid, 'cause I think you're a little bit older than me, being a kid, I was more drawn towards, just a little bit. I was drawn towards WWF because that side, it was more cartoon characters. Like, these guys were all big and jacked, and they had these gimmicks, you know what I'm saying? Whereas in NWA in the South, it was more of a sport. It was believable.
Absolutely.
So which brings us to my next question now. At what point did you realize that, I don't want to call it fake because I would never insult wrestling or the wrestling fan, but at what point did you know that wrestling was
choreographed? Choreographed. Better term.
Yeah, choreographed.
So I would say probably because even coming as a kid, people know I love to watch wrestling. And so you will always hear it. But I guess in my mind, maybe I knew and I just didn't care.
Right.
Because even now, like I say, I still watch it now. Like, I still go to shows now. So it just never bothered me as far as when people would say stuff like that, because in some things you just knew. Because how could a guy be out today? You know what I'm saying? He bleeding like a stuck pig, and he comes back the next week, he doesn't have like no stitches, no bandage, nothing on his head.
Right.
And so I think, but one thing I did enjoy about Southern wrestling, like I said, it was more of a sport, and it was more bloody and more brutal. Like when you looked at, like if you watch, say you talking Memphis and you're talking Tommy Rich versus Hot Stuff Eddie Gibbard.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they had some bloody battles. Or if you're watching Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan, which that to me was the greatest feud of all time. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Florida boy. I'm saying that because when Dusty Rhodes talked you into believing that Kevin Sullivan actually was a devil worshiper, and you wanted that, especially coming up a church boy,
right.
You wanted that devil worshiper to be dealt with, you know what I'm saying? But yet, and Kevin Sullivan, Catholic boy, none of that foolishness. But somehow it stuck.
Right, you believe it.
And so it was just the believability of it. And to me, too, I think the promos, period, down south was so much better. When you had a guy like Magnum TA talk about how him and Nikita and how they going to just, especially when they had their Best of 7 series, or even when he battled Tully Blanchard. And so you had these guys, they can talk into the sense of, I'm really going to hurt this dude. Or even a guy like Jim Cornette as a manager, he played that wimp role so well. But God Almighty, you just wanted to make sure you had to be there to see Jim Cornette and what was going to happen to him in his Midnight Express. So it's so much to this thing, man.
Right. Well, so well, and back then not the faces, but the heels had a lot of heat. You know what I'm saying? Those guys had heat because, like, when I watch some of those old NWA matches, like the pop from the crowd is like you don't hear that no more, man.
No, and when you hear Iron Man come on, you already knew what time it was. You knew the road was coming. You knew who it was, and it depends on who they're wrestling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And if you knew if it was I don't want to call him jobber because I think Carpenter was on Arn Anderson calling, and so some of the Carpenter guys and they would come in and you knew the road was going to whoop them, and it was just horrible. You get your press slam, you get your clothesline, get your shoulder tackle, and it was the same match sometimes, not all the time with those guys.
Right.
But you didn't care. Why? Because all you hear was, what a rush, or you see the flex or see whatever, and it's just like, But that's what it was. So
those guys were beasts, man. Well, it's funny you said Dusty Rhodes and was it Kevin Sullivan, right?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people say Dusty and Ric Flair had the best feud.
Well, like I said, I don't know because of my bias, because of where I'm from, being a Florida boy, and their feud taking place here. But when it comes to feuds, there's so many out there. You put out Freebirds Von Erichs. Yeah. Probably one of the greatest. Definitely top 10 feuds of all time. Right. Definitely top 10.
I agree with that.
And that's such a tragedy what happened with that family. And like I said, I used to watch the reruns after school at my grandma's house with WCCW when it was on ESPN, and watching the Von Erichs, and you just be like, man. And of them all, Kerry was my favorite. David was probably the best, but Kerry was my favorite.
Well, I think he was the most popular too, because I can't tell you the other Von Erichs. I just always know Kerry because I remember just running WWF. He was a Texas Tornado. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing you might not have known: when he was running WWF, he only had one foot.
I heard about that.
Lost in a motorcycle accident.
I heard about that. How the hell did he pull that off?
But I don't know. But I think sometimes we push. We can be pushed or pushed too much into something, and sometimes it's quite detriment. But I will say this: he's got two nephews that are wrestling now.
Okay,
Ross and Kevin's son, Ross and God, it'll come to me in a little bit. But Kevin Von Erich's two sons are wrestling. They wrestle a promotion, MLW.
Okay,
they actually sometimes run shows here in Florida. But we can talk about that part later. So I'm not going to jump in.
Yeah. No, it's all good, man. Like I like getting the history. Like I said, you know a lot more because some names that you named, I can't even. We got somebody up in the house here. Hey, Rashad, Miss Blaze D. When I was 12, I was disappointed when I found the practice. The wrestling moves.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. But here's the thing with that though. But you have to, because you wrestled. You wrestled to show that you were hurt, but not to get hurt.
Right.
And so that's what it was.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and look, and as kids, I guess that's why Vince had to go on TV and say that, which I heard a lot of wrestlers was pissed off about when he got on TV and said, yeah, I know you're tired of getting your intelligence assaulted. Like, this is all scripted. It's not real. And personally, for me, I hated that because what the magic of wrestling to me, the magic of wrestling was that you believe the illusion. Even when you found out that it was scripted and it was choreographed, but still, like a movie, you buy into. A movie's not real, but you buy into the illusion. So when you tell me that, now watching and knowing, okay, that's not real. That's not a real punch. That's not a real drop kick. You know what I'm saying? It takes away from that. You know what I mean? So yeah, well, we're gonna get to Vince in a minute, but definitely we just going over the history first of this. But as a kid now, my older cousin used to practice the moves on me. I had an older cousin who was 4 years older than me, and I swear, Jerome, we'd be walking by each other, right? And out of nowhere, he'll yell it out before he does it. Belly to belly. Wow. Oh, man. And I'm like, I'll be sitting there watching cartoons, and he'll get on top of the couch, and then snooker. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
He did so many things to me. He did the figure 4 leg lock. I got a power driver. I got a suplex, the Cobra clutch, the camel clutch, the Boston Crab, you name it. My cousin gave it to me. Kareem, if you're watching, I still love you, cousin, but I'm traumatized, man. You did some stuff to me. I mean, have you ever tried to do any of those moves to your cousins?
No, I did not. But I'll tell you what I did do one time. So, we grew up in Seminole Gardens, which they would come out, they would cut the grass. So me saying, and one of my favorite guys to influence was also Barry Windham.
Okay.
And so Barry Windham, I thought he had one of the meanest drop kicks. And so they had cut the grass. So I get all this grass clippings. I make a big old pile because I'm going to make me a soft landing when I try this drop kick. Needless to say, it must not have been thick enough. So I run up, and granted, now, I'm not drop kicking anybody. Yeah. I'm just going up in the air, just practice it. I drop kicked and I landed the wrong way. Needless to say, I never tried that again. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just a kid, so.
Oh, yeah, and you learn quick, like, how do these guys do this without messing each other up?
Oh, absolutely.
And Jerome, I used to take it so far, too, man. I used to have the LGN toys, the WWF figures, and what I would do is I would, like, actually act out the match with the wrestler. So I would take Roddy Piper, and I would take a pin and poke holes in his head. Then I would take it would be a red pin. I'll break the red pin in half and pour the blood on his face like he was bleeding.
Oh, yeah.
I used to...
Listen, man. Hey, it's something about that illusion was strong when you're a kid, though.
Yeah.
It's something about it strong. Something about it is just, the good guy, bad guy. And letting you see the bad guy's not always going to win. Sometimes, and I think Ric Flair was the epitome of that, showing you that the good guy's not always going to win. Because he was so hated and so despised. But the ladies loved him.
Yeah, but he just oozed charisma. Like, even though you hated him, man, he was that character that you loved to hate.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if I did watch NWA wrestling on TBS, like that was the main reason I would tune in, to see Flair or the Road Warriors, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I said, I didn't see a whole lot of Dusty. I didn't start seeing Dusty, don't hit me in the head, man, until he came to WWF with the polka dots and stuff, when he was the American Dream.
So that was foolishness, and that's more Vince foolishness.
Yeah.
Because how you have a guy who's got the most powerful move in the business, bionic elbow,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Where he's single-handedly taking on the Four Horsemen, and many times winning because he booked it. So of course,
right.
But I mean, and then now you bring here with polka dots. But you know the funniest thing about it was he got the polka dots over.
Yeah,
it didn't tear him down. Even with Miss Sapphire,
he was over still.
Matter.
He was over.
He was so over, it wasn't funny.
Right. Because I was a fan, you know what I'm saying? I had the toys and everything. So now, which brings me to the next phase of this is that, okay, so you had the territory wrestling, which was popping back then.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You had big names that were over, like JYD and Flair and Dusty and those guys, right? So now here comes Vince Jr., has a vision, says, okay, I want to make this mainstream. I want to buy up all the territories, and I'm going to take the star of Rocky III, because that movie was so huge and made Hogan a star. Okay, we're going to take that guy and make him the face of wrestling.
Right.
And then you have rock and wrestling. So it's almost a blessing and a curse, because, if Vince didn't come in, do you think wrestling would have become as big as it is without Vince?
So it's hard to say, because here's the thing. When WrestleMania 1 first took place, Vince pretty much put the whole bank on it. Had WrestleMania 1 failed, WWF might not even exist today.
Right.
But it's hard to say, because I think that in some form you had other federations that were around, so you would have had all of those guys. They would have found a home. I wish we still had the territory system, because it does leave something to be imagined, something to be desired. Because now you've got what. You probably got 3 or 4 main companies. You got AEW, you got WWE, and so with all these guys now, it's hard to, because you can see you have access to them all the time.
Right.
Let me miss you some.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Go away for a little bit. Let me miss you some. So when you come back, that pop is huge, and it's just like
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it's hard to believe at one time it was just one pay-per-view. It was WrestleMania. That's it. And then eventually you have, the Survivor Series, Royal Rumble.
In WWE, yes. But remember, you had Starrcade, and you also had the Great American Bash in the NWA.
Okay, so was Starrcade before WrestleMania or after?
I believe Starrcade was before WrestleMania. So
Starrcade was technically the first WrestleMania. That was like the big Super Bowl event of wrestling.
Yeah, Starrcade, it was serious business. I mean, and I just want to make sure I'm telling you right, but I want to say yes, I do believe Starrcade was first.
Okay.
Because I know that NWA used to do a lot of back then, they called it closed circuit.
Closed circuit, yeah.
But yeah,
okay, Miss Blaze D, true, when the Hulk beat Andre the Giant, Andre threw the match to Hulk too. Oh yeah, well that was the plan. All right, Terrence. What's up, Terrence, man? Long time no see, brother. What's happening? What did I miss? Oh, we just talking about some wrestling, some old school wrestling. You know what I'm saying? I got my cousin here. He's a wrestling historian, expert. So we just talking about, not the origin of the business, but back when we watched it growing up, and then kind of its demise. That's what we're gonna get to eventually. What went wrong with this? You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, okay. So piggybacking off of that with Andre the Giant, that's when I really fell in love with wrestling, because I remember WrestleMania 3. My pop ordered the pay-per-view. We had a big gathering over there. It was like watching the Super Bowl. And at the time, I've never seen nothing like that. So the first thing that blew me away was the Savage and Steamboat match. Oh, that was incredible.
Classic.
Like,
sure.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best matches ever, not just WrestleMania, but ever.
Oh, for
so
sure.
We lost our minds with that match. And then when Hogan slammed the Giant, the match was mediocre, you know what I'm saying? Because Andre was limited by then. But
absolutely,
I remember that moment when Hulk picked him up and slammed him. We jumped up, we was screaming and hollering, and oh my God, he slammed the Giant. But then not knowing that Hogan slammed Andre a million times back in the day.
Yeah, but here's the thing of it is too. That was only possible because Andre allowed it to happen.
Right.
And I think people don't realize Andre had a whole lot more clout. And if Andre didn't want to work you or work with you,
I heard
he could be something else.
Okay, so do you think that story was true? Because some wrestlers called BS on Hogan's story, saying that he didn't know the finish, and Andre was kind of breaking his balls about it.
No, I can understand that.
He said every time he went somewhere, he said, "Hey, boss, we okay? I don't know, are we?"
No, I think it's true. Okay. I mean, Andre had his issues too. But sometimes too, you can get so to a point to where you feel like, well, I don't have to do this anymore, or I do it my way, but it does sound like about Andre where he humbled himself. Is like, hey, we got to do this to get this whole thing over, because it's more than just about me.
Yeah, so. And I guess that's why he felt betrayed at like near the end of his career, because it's like, okay, because of me, because I passed the torch to Hulk, WWF became this big conglomerate. You know what I'm saying? Because of me, because I put him over. Because at the time, Andre was the guy, even though Hogan was the more popular, I guess, but Andre was like the guy. He didn't need a belt. Yeah, he didn't need a belt. He was an attraction by itself. So when he did that for the company, and I guess at the end he felt Vince wasn't there for him. But I guess at the same time, from Vince's standpoint, I'm like, well, you're older, you're limited. There's not much we can do with you, and this is a business.
Absolutely.
This is in life, business goes on, and I guess Andre couldn't understand that.
Yeah, but one thing about loyalty, not just in life in general. As long as they need you, they're there for you. But when you're not needed anymore, they can find a reason not to use you.
Yeah,
I mean, it was what it was. I mean, but here's the thing, though. But I'm pretty sure Andre was well taken care of during this time.
Oh yeah,
I am sure.
Oh yeah,
he was well taken care of during this time. So it's not like it's a deal to where he was just thrown down. Now I would tell you somebody who I think Vince did wrong was Kamala.
Okay, elaborate on that.
So his pay dates weren't what they should have been. What did I just read today? Where I want to say he wrestled someone, and they got a 6-figure payday. And I think he said he got like $13,000 for the same match.
Oh wow!
And it's like, and even I remember he said Hogan told him he needed to go talk to Vince to up his pay, but that's why I fought Hogan. I'm like, Hogan, that may have been true, but why don't you go? Well, I kind of know why. Hogan had his issues, but why didn't you go fight for him and say, hey, Vince, hey, this isn't right? Because here's the thing. If you see something, say something. I mean, maybe because I'm also a social justice warrior, and that's how I feel about that. If you see something, say something. So if that's how you really feel, then Hogan, go say, hey, Vince, we got to do right by this guy. He's coming in, he's putting me over constantly. You know what I'm saying? We're working great matches. Come on,
he's probably the only guy that could have did that too at the time.
Oh,
Hogan,
absolutely.
Because Hogan, he was the golden boy,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, man, go ahead. I got no stuff to go.
No, well, and I'm thinking about that too. Like a lot of guys that came from those territories that were popular. It seemed like when Vince got a hold of him, it was a big deal because, like, oh my God, Junkyard Dog is in WWF. But if you look at JYD's career in WWF, it was terrible. But then again, a lot of wrestlers did say that his work was, excuse my language, but his work was the shits. They said JYD was a terrible worker, but he was over.
But it's not just JYD. Even if you come up to recent times, if Vince did not create you, he tried to find another way to humble you. I.e., that's right with the polka dots.
Okay.
How do you come be one of the baddest cowboys in the game? Now you went polka dots prancing around, talking about using a common man.
Facts.
Come on.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, because it happened with JYD, Steamboat. Who else came from the territories? That
Dino Bravo,
the world's strongest man.
Yeah, because he had a decent run.
Yeah,
and then what wound up happening was after his run, towards the end, it started falling apart.
That was it.
And so, but I mean, and don't get me wrong, you're gonna be as old. You can make yourself over, even when Vince make you over. Like you said about Dusty, I think he got polka dots over when Dusty used it as a rib of a sort, I guess.
Right.
So, but it was what it was. When you're the owner, you do what you want to do.
Do what you want to do. Yeah. Even another guy comes to mind for some reason. I thought Butch Reed. Like Butch Reed was really over in Florida, right? He was a Florida boy, but Vince got a hold of him, with the blonde hair and everything, and gave him Slick, the manager, which. Back then, I ain't think nothing of it, but when I watch now, I'm like, oh, God, that's so stereotypical, man.
But here's the thing. He was supposed to be in the Intercontinental Champion before Honky Tonk Man was.
Oh, Butch Reed?
He no-showed.
Oh.
Didn't show up, and that's why Honky Tonk was able to get the run that he did.
Oh, so Butch Reed pretty much killed Butch Reed's career. I
don't know about killing his career, because I think even at that, he still was able to wrestle and do things.
Right.
But, yes, he no-showed, and that's why Honky Tonk was able to get the Intercontinental run that he did.
Okay. And Tony Atlas kind of said that too, because Tony Atlas was asked, like, how come he didn't have a bigger push in the WWF. He took accountability for it. He said, "Well, listen,
him and Rocky Johnson were the first black ones in that.
Yeah. Yep. But he said a lot of that was my fault. You know, he said I messed that up. You know, I did some stupid things. I was hard headed." And he told a story about how he got the role in Conan the Destroyer, and he didn't show up, and said Arnold was mad at him for a lot of years. So yeah, I get that, but you know, I guess there are a few exceptions. Like for example, another one that comes to mind is Ron Simmons. But luckily, Ron Simmons was talented enough to where when he came to WWF, and Vince put that god awful gimmick on him.
Oh my god!
You know, remember the gladiator thing, the Farouk. Yes. You know,
it was
horrible. But luckily, you know, he was one of the few that slipped through the cracks and was still able to make a long career with Vince. You know what I'm saying? Despite that,
you know, because you think with him with Layfield, you know, in APA,
right?
I mean, they milked that puppy till they couldn't milk it no more.
Oh yeah.
But I will say, I do feel like Ron Simmons should have had a world championship run.
I think so.
He should have had a run.
I think so. I wonder what the problem was. Was it because he really couldn't cut a promo, or I'm thinking about Ahmed Johnson that couldn't cut a promo? It was somebody that they was trying to give a push, and they said that he couldn't really talk. He couldn't cut a promo. But
here's the thing: that whole not be able to cut a promo thing is dumb to me.
Okay,
tell me the best promo Brock Lesnar's ever done.
Oh, Paul Heyman always spoke for him.
Give him a manager.
Okay.
Give him a manager.
Yeah.
You look at Lance Storm. As technical as Lance Storm was, Lance Storm to me should have been a world champion.
Right. Yeah.
Technically, the man could wrestle circles around anyone.
Right.
Well, he doesn't have charisma. Give him a manager. If you look at Lance Storm's work in ECW when he had Don Marie with him and Justin Campbell.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
It work speaks for itself.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And I think the main thing Vince be looking for is like that it factor too. Like you take somebody like the Warrior, who, I mean, you can't say he cut good promos because Warrior, you never knew what he was talking about. Yeah.
Whatever, man.
Yeah, his promos were out there, but I mean, he had the look. He had he was over. You know what I'm saying? But he couldn't wrestle worth nothing. No. You know, he couldn't cut it as champion. You know, they took the strap from Hogan and gave it to Warrior, and Warrior, like...
And you know him and Sting used to be partners, right?
Yeah. The Blade Runners. Blade Runners, right.
Yeah, if you go on YouTube, you see old matches of them when they're in Memphis.
Right.
And it's funny because, to me, Sting's career went a whole lot better than Warrior's did. But Sting had something Warrior didn't. Sting had loyalty and common sense. And that's why his career was able to run as long as it did.
Plus he took the business seriously. You know, Sting tried to be a good wrestler. You know what I'm saying? He tried to learn everything about the business, whereas Warrior, he was kind of, I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but he was really one-dimensional. He's like, okay, I know this is what works. You know, I'm a big guy, I shake the ropes, you know, I just press slam, gorilla press, you know, whatever, done. Yeah. Sting actually tried to build his character up, and that's
you never always got the same match with Sting.
Facts. Let's see, you got a couple of comments here. Andre the Giant was a force to be reckoned with, and peace to your cousin, brother. All right, right on. Wow. Ron Simmons was that dude. Remember, he was in the Nation of Domination. Yeah.
That's where Rock got his. That's where he started getting that push at.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And according to Ron Simmons, that's where you also got the Know Your Role line from. You said he got it from him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So he owe Ron Simmons a check. But okay, so
but I'm sure Ron's not broke. I'm sure Ron's fine.
All right, so your favorite era. What's your favorite era of wrestling?
For sure, 80s.
80s, okay.
For sure, 80s. Because I think it's where the birth of my love. And granted, I'll tell you, I'm 44. I mean, I was born in 76, so that's where my love of the game first started. And so you get that, and it's just like this is what I remember. Like I remember Scott Hall when he was AWA because they used to do the AWA reruns on ESPN too. Right. So I remember Scott Hall in AWA before he became Razor Ramon. I remember Kurt Hennig because Kurt Hennig was AWA World Champions.
Right.
You know, and to see these guys in all these different places, but like I said, but Florida was where it was for me. Eddie Graham, Kevin Sullivan, Purple Haze, the Freebirds, man. I mean, Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, the PYTs, Norva Austin and Coco Beware, and Percy Pringle before he became
Coco Beware.
Percy Pringle before he became Paul Bearer. Yeah. You know, that's when he had Ravishing Rick Rude was down here in Florida.
Okay.
You know, so and it's funny because when you start seeing more wrestling, start seeing these guys. Okay, they're not in Florida. You start seeing them. You know, because Rude was a world champion with Manny Fernandez, so you got to see him in NWA. And then you get to see him in WWF. So just to see, to see all these guys during the 80s, man. I mean, is a boom. It's like, and don't get me, there's a resurgence in the 90s.
Right.
But for me, the foundation is always going to be the 80s.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of those guys were catalysts to future superstars that kind of took their gimmick. You know, like a lot of people say that Shawn Michaels was like another version of Michael Hayes. You know, they say that that Stone Cold was another version of Dr. D, you know, David Schultz. You know what I'm saying? He was the original Stone Cold. You know,
slap a lot.
Well, do you think that slap was justified?
So here's the thing. I think this is one of those times where Vince punked out. You sense my do you dirty work, then you don't back.
Right. Yeah.
I think Vince knew what was going to happen. I think he sent the right person out, and he knew what was going to happen. And he had to pay Stossel.
Yeah, but he said Vince told me to slap. Vince said this guy's running his mouth and slapped the taste out of his mouth. And then when the crap hit the fan, he was out. Oh yeah, blackballed forever. You know.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, Dr. D. David Schultz doing fine by himself. He runs like a bounty hunting business, and he's doing fine by himself.
Oh yeah. But his personality, like I watch his interviews, and I'm like, wow, I wish I could have seen more of this guy in wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Because he was. And he said Hogan was afraid to wrestle him. You know, he said he used to punk Hogan.
Oh man, I got a story for you. I got one for you.
Okay,
and this is gonna go way back.
Okay,
so I know you guys don't know, but I was in the military. Well, I'm retired military, but I was active duty. I went guard. But long story short. So anyway, when I came up active duty, in the break between me coming out and then going to college, I worked for the local cable company. And so I look at the thing and it says no Charlie Thez. My mind it's not ringing up. It's not ringing up for anything. Charlie Thez. I get to the house and this general opens the door. He says, "Hi, my name is Lou." Still hasn't clicked in. I'm working on the cable and I'm like, Lou. I look at the paper. I said, Lou Thez. I said, "Are you Lou Thez, the wrestler?" He said, "Yeah." And so I had to stop working because I am. I mean, mentally I'm showing them okay, but I'm freaking out because I'm like, yo, this Lou Thez is like one of the greatest to ever do, and we were talking and stuff. I remember him telling me, he said, he wasn't a fan of Hogan. He told me that he offered Hogan, he asked Hogan to wrestle him straight up because Lou Thez was a hooker, and so for those who don't know what a hooker is, those are like legit wrestlers, like they can wrestle.
He was like a shoot.
He's a shoot guy.
Okay.
And so, and Lou Thez was legit. He trained Masahiro Chono. And he said, well, he trained guys to hurt, not to. Because back in the day, if a guy didn't want to do the job, you had to do what you had to do.
I heard.
And so, I always, when I think of Hogan, I'm like, at that time, you got to think Lou was, God, 50s, 60s when Hogan was what he was, and just like. And you like Lou Thez punk you like that? Yeah, but he did.
I heard a lot of people punked Hogan. I heard Harley Race bitch slapped him.
Oh, I'm sure.
I heard
Harley was legit.
Yeah, Harley. Yeah, they said Harley was probably the toughest guy.
Yeah, Harley was legit.
Yeah. But they said a lot of people punked Hogan. Hell, I even heard Rick Rude beat up Ultimate Warrior. Now, growing up, I always thought that Ultimate Warrior was that guy, but they said something happened where Warrior made a comment saying that Rick Rude was. He was a mid, he'll never be a top tier guy, and Rude, I guess, got wind of that, and they say he beat Warrior within an inch of his life. Flair was one that told the story.
Well, but here's the thing, right? Rude was a legit guy, but this is the thing. What people don't realize behind the scenes, Rick Rude was a very religious guy, and was it Steve Austin that told that story? Yeah. And so to get Rick Rude riled up, like you really had to do something,
right?
And so, but that's no worse than when Rob Van Dam asked Taz to pick a hand.
Oh, yeah.
And so he picked a hand. And then what did the five fingers say to the face? What it was.
Oh, man. Like, yeah, look, I could watch those wrestling shoots all day. Like, I love those shoots and just hearing the stories. And because as a kid, you see the character. You have no idea what's happening backstage. You know what I'm saying?
No, you don't.
Like I love the story that Hogan tells on the Andre the Giant documentary where he said that Andre didn't like Savage. And so Andre be sitting there playing cards and Savage would walk in all baby oiled up because he used to like lather himself in baby oil. And he'd be like, "Hey, Andre, brother, what do you want to do tonight?" So Andre would look up, "Get out, no baby oil, get out."
Yeah.
So he would sit on him. He would, rip his hair out, stretch him, said he hated the Iron Sheik. He always wanted to kill the Iron Sheik.
Sheiky, baby. I will humble you. Oh, so here's the deal.
Okay.
I've got to see Arashi Russell live.
Really?
Back in 1996, 97.
Lucky man.
At Fort Hood, Texas.
Yeah.
They were having a show at one of the gyms. I got to see him, the Sultan. I got to see Honky Tonk Man because my buddy Eddie Sachs, from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We're still friends to this day.
Yeah.
And even when we talk about it now because that was my big thing. I was like, man, the Iron Sheik. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, obviously he broke out the camel clutch, so that made the brother just go, man. You know, so you just mark, oh man.
Yeah.
You know, so but it's
I've only been to one wrestling event live, man. I went to one event and it was an MSG, and I remember the main event was the Nation of Domination versus Ahmed Johnson and Savio Vega, and that's when Savio Vega turned heel and joined the Nation. I was actually there for that, and I saw Stone Cold there. This is before he was Stone Cold. He was still like the $1 million champion.
Yeah, but it was Stunning. No, Stunning.
He was a ringmaster.
Ringmaster. Yeah, because Stunning Steve Austin was in WCW.
Yeah. So that's the only event that I saw live, and then I think I saw the Undertaker once up close, and that guy was so huge. And I saw Billy Gunn one time at the Orlando airport, but he was a jerk though, man.
He's a local guy. So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. So as far as going to big name shows, I went to WWF maybe once or twice. But where I am now is I do a lot of local stuff, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Because you get to see, you get to get more close, and you get to really get to see. They've got a couple federations here in town, so I'm gonna do a little name plug in here if you don't mind.
Okay.
FIP, Full Impact Wrestling, they're part of WWN. If you ever get a chance to come in Florida, watch them. Great guys. I mean, great wrestlers. At WWN, they have this trainer by the name Francisco Chiazzo. We used to watch him here in Sanford at Ventures Pro Wrestling, right to Salvation Army. Right. Me and my kids religiously would go every week to watch Ventures Pro because you had Francisco Chiazzo, you had Bruce Santee, you had Simon Says, and then you have Evolve Wrestling. You have, and so these are shows that I've been able to go see. And there's a group out of Atlanta called WWA4. They're run by a guy by the name of A.R. Fox, wonderful wrestler. They came down and did a showcase in Newport Rich this past weekend. By far, one of the best shows I've been to ever. And shout out to A.R. Fox, man. You're training your guys. It's kids from school. You train your guys right. Me and my crew, we thoroughly enjoyed the show. But anyway, I say all that to say this. But local shows to me now, they're so much more personal, and with my and I tell my kids every show I go to, so we really get to get up close and personal. Like we've seen Johnny Gargano live, we've seen Drew McIntyre live, we've seen New Jack live, we've seen a lot of guys on NXT we've seen live, and we go to NXT shows when they come to town too. But there's so much out there that's not seen. So don't think when we think of the scope of wrestling, and that's where I've evolved from now. So I do enjoy the big ones. Like I still watch WWE at times. I still watch AEW. Okay. But if I can get to a local show and bypass them, that's what I'm going to do. Wow.
And I feel because, which is going to go into our final part here. So my favorite era, it's a toss up between the 80s and the Attitude Era. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like the Monday Night Wars.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, because I kind of fell back. All right, so I say from like 83 to like 91, around the time Undertaker first came, I kind of checked out because I was, becoming a teenager. I kind of outgrew wrestling, but then I started watching it again when Stone Cold and all those guys came. Like, I was a big Ahmed Johnson fan, and that's when I started watching it again. So from 95 to like 2001, and after that, I just stopped. I checked out, man. It was
a lot of people did.
It was over with for me,
A lot of people did.
Yeah. So all these guys you named off, I have no idea who they are. So in your opinion, what is it that went wrong with the business where they just lost a lot of fans and the magic that used to be wrestling?
Lack of competition.
Okay.
Lack of competition. I think once WCW went out, it hurt. So now, but during that time, you had Ring of Honor, who's still around today. Once again, great wrestling. Matter of fact, the first WrestleMania they had here in Orlando, I took my wife to. Okay. Your cousin Angie.
Okay.
She don't do wrestling. She thoroughly enjoyed herself.
Okay.
And so there we saw Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan now. We saw Tyler Black, who's now, why can't I say his name now, but can't remember. Anyway, we saw Tyler Black.
Yeah.
We got to see Roderick Strong. He wrestled a guy by the name of Eric Stevens.
Okay.
And that was by far one of the bloodiest matches I've ever seen. Great match. They chopped the mess out of each other.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, getting back to it.
Yeah.
So, so you had other, and TNA wrestling was around. So you had other wrestling around, but there's no real competition for WWE. And so sometimes if you don't have competition, you get stagnant.
You get comfortable.
And I think it got stagnant. And that was still feeling effects even today. Wrestling I don't see a heyday in wrestling, but I do see a slight resurgence, and I think it can get better. But I just think that when you get down to one company who basically, when you get to a monopoly that's running the show, it does more harm than good.
So you think that's what's going to bring wrestling back is just more competition where one's trying to outdo the other one?
Well, and now you have more because AEW is in. Have you had a chance to check those guys out yet?
No, well, I've seen the highlights of it, but I never actually watched the show.
Check them out. Great company. But I would say, but the good thing about them is that they have financial backing that WWE has because of constant money. They own the Jaguars, they own a soccer team over in Europe.
Right.
So they have the financial backing to make sure that this thing is successful. And that's what makes the difference.
Okay.
So,
yeah, so because once again, that goes back to a blessing and a curse because Vince wanted to just, consolidate everything. He wanted to be the top dog, but I think in doing that, it kind of hurt the business because even when he bought WCW, you know what I mean? It just, okay, it was a victory for him. But then to the wrestling fan, it was like, well, damn, so there's no more WCW. There's nothing else to watch. It's all WWF. So we're stuck with that. And from what I heard, he screwed a lot of those guys in WCW. Where I don't know if he screwed them or those guys just didn't want to work for Vince.
Well,
but a lot of them
been a little bit of both.
Okay,
might have been a little bit of both.
I know Sting never came over, like Sting and Buff Bagwell and Diamond Dallas Page.
Well, no, Buff Bagwell did come.
Oh, he did come. Okay.
He didn't last. He was there.
Okay.
He didn't last.
Gotcha.
And some of those guys, they just didn't need. Like you can't bring everybody with you.
Right.
Right. Even the same thing when they took over ECW, they couldn't bring all those guys, and they tried, and they tried the whole invasion angle thing, but it's never done right.
Right.
It's never done right. I think the biggest thing, even with the ECW angle, is when they had Stone Cold to join ECW guys. Have you ever seen that interview he did in ECW?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, you got to watch it.
Okay. It's
by far one of the best interviews you ever want to see because basically. It's just because he wasn't ECW alone. It basically was just a gap in between time with WCW and going to WWE.
Oh, because he got fired from WCW, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha. And he talks about all the interview. And the thing with me, if you go to an interview, you got to make me believe. And that's why I'm talking about like Dusty talking to the building. You got to make me
promos.
Believe.
Yeah. And and I think another thing that hurt the business too is that back then, those guys were free to be who they were. You know what I'm saying? Even though they were playing a character, but it was just an extension of who they really were. So when you saw Randy Savage, that was Savage. We saw Hogan, you saw Terry Bollea, but with the volume turned all the way up, that they were given the freedom to create these characters. Whereas it got to a point where it became so scripted. We're like, no, this is your gimmick. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to say. And to me, the only time that really, really worked was, of course, Undertaker, Mark Calloway.
Right.
That's probably the only time where Vince created a gimmick and created this, and then it lasted as long as it did. But you believed in those characters, like that they was all unique in their own way.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you had guys like you say, the Undertaker is a great example of that. Whose run was so long until he got to leave on his own terms, and that's saying something for WWE because not everybody gets to do that. Yeah, like everybody leave it on terms. So
I mean, because so had Stone Cold been in today's generation, well, what was the first thing they gave him? Some kind of weird name, Frosty McFreeze or something like that. They gave him some weird. Vince wanted him to have some weird name, Frosty McFreeze and something.
See, and that's news to me.
Yeah,
I'm glad you. Wow.
Yeah. Looked it up, and then eventually they settled with the Ringmaster, and Stone Cold was like, I don't like the name, but I need a job, so Ringmaster it is.
Well, that's like WWE. They wanted to make Ric Flair Spartacus.
Yeah.
What kind of listen, man? Come on, Duke Ranch. Dude's gonna be over.
Yeah.
At some point, you can't be petty all your life, Vince.
Well, yeah, Vince just has a different mind, man. He has like a weird little world in his head with all these different characters and gimmicks and stuff, and some of them are really out there. Like, what's that? Remember that one guy, the Giant Gonzalez?
Oh,
where they had him in a bodysuit with spray painted muscles on, hair on his elbows, and I'm like, what is this?
Like a big old Sasquatch.
You know what I'm saying? Like even
But here's the thing. Let's push him to main event. Here's the main event matches.
Yeah. You
like,
wrestle
really?
Taker at Mania. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'd rather go with Big Khali over him.
Yeah.
And Khali, you know.
I mean, but he was kind of over, And speaking of big guys, we had rest in peace to Zeus, man. Tiny Lister Jr.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I watched No Holds Barred that night, and even though it was a terrible movie when I was a kid, but back then, to me, it was Star Wars because I was such a wrestling fan. When I saw the trailer, I said, Hulk Hogan in a movie against this guy, Zeus, who was like Clubber Lang to me at the time. I loved No Holds Barred when I first watched it, but over the years, I'm like, this is terrible.
Cringeworthy. Very cringeworthy. It's amazing what you like as a kid when you grew up, like,
it's not that good.
Watch that crap. What in the world?
But he's another guy that he had no kind of ring ability. He just was standing there, and hit himself and cross his eye. Yeah, but it worked.
It's not. Listen, what's Derek Coleman? He said it best. It's not it's not what you're worth. It's what they pay you.
Facts.
I mean, because you got to think, Derek Coleman was the highest paid NBA player of all time, and I'm still trying to figure out why. No disrespect, Derek. Just saying.
Well, and he wasn't even in the business that long, Zeus. I think his WWF run was like, what, 6 months or something?
It wasn't long, and then he had another run when they did like a Tower of Doom and WCW during the years of the Monday Night Wars. Because at the time, when I was at Fort Hood, at the sports bar on base, they would order all the pay-per-views.
Right.
So it's just cheaper, why order? Just go hang out on base. And I would go hang out on base and watch pay-per-views there.
Okay.
And yeah, it was always something, man.
Yeah. And that's when I knew wrestling was kind of over too. That's when I checked out was like I said, the early 90s when a lot of those guys from WWF went to WCW. So Hogan, Savage, Beefcake, like all those guys left. Yeah.
Wasn't
the same. Yeah. So the top guy at the time was Diesel and Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, because remember they did the curtain call deal.
Right.
And they got in trouble. But you got to think, but there was a huge resurgence when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall went to WCW when they saw the whole Outsider NWO thing.
Right.
And that to me, NWO killed itself. And I'm always frustrated by that because it didn't have to. It did not have to kill itself.
Right.
Because I know for me, I was to the point of, I thought NWO was great. I didn't like it, you know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't supposed to like it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I think they ran into too much when they started adding more people on. Now you got white and black, red and black. It's got to be a hot mess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, but it was an interesting storyline when Goldberg came because, when Goldberg came, it was like Goldberg against the whole NWO. And remember, he had that long streak where he was undefeated and everything. Right. And then, but then eventually, like NWO got the best of him.
Yeah, but I wasn't a Goldberg fan. Like
I gave Goldberg.
I tried to get into it. I tried.
He had that presence like Ultimate Warrior. Like when that music kicked in and he came down the rim, doing his whole, Listen,
I'll be honest with you. I thought Gilbert was more entertaining. No, and once again, not some wrestling characters you love, some you don't.
Yeah.
Goldberg. But when Gilbert came down and he did it, and he tripped all over himself with the Job Squad.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah, Terrence says, rest in peace, Tiny Lister. I didn't like when Hogan was Hollywood Hogan. I thought it was corny. Nah, I'm gonna disagree. Hollywood Hogan.
He represented himself well.
Yeah, he was a good heel. I thought he worked as a heel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he went from being this superstar, good guy, superhero to now he's like the scum that you want to see, get his ass kicked. You know what I mean? So I thought the Hollywood Hogan thing worked. Okay, who's a wrestler that was a face and then turned heel and the heel just didn't work for him, and then vice versa, who he thought was a heel that didn't work as a baby face?
Gosh, man.
I'll tell you, off the top of the dome, Stone Cold. Stone Cold was my guy in the 90s. I hated when he turned heel.
But he was never heel. I call him a tweener, man, because he was so over, people just couldn't hate him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is during the time when, during the what?
Couldn't hate him. Couldn't hate him.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was so over, you just couldn't hate him.
Nah, true. Well, okay, Wrestlemania 13. That's another one of my favorite matches ever when he wrestled Bret Hart. And he was a heel. Coming to the match, he was a heel. And that's one of the only matches I can remember where prior to the match, I'm like, I want to see Bret beat that guy. And then as the match was going, I'm like, wait a minute, no. I don't like Bret anymore. I want Stone Cold to win now.
But that tells you like the stories that can be told in a wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And see, he didn't do it on his own. That's because Bret was in that thing with him.
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing. And you can see chemistry in a wrestling match. And then you can tell when guys are just there going through the motion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that was the thing, too. You know, I think that's another thing that it was, too. Because when you having the one company, going back to your previous course, when you have the one company, sometimes the passion is lost and you're going through the motions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if, you know, you do this match 20,000 times, you know what I'm saying? And you're just doing it in a different town. It's just like, okay, give me something else. I need something. Yeah. I don't care about the job. I'll lose. Just give me something else.
Yeah. And that's another thing I think is missing now is like back then they told stories in the ring. Like you said, they told stories in ring psychology. You know what I'm saying? Like they knew how, like once they knew how to grip the audience, and once they got them, they had them. You know what I'm saying? You was fully invested the whole time. Like, you know, even with Savage, like Savage, I think was a master of that, man. Savage was so detailed in his matches. He knew ring psychology, man, you know, how to really get the crowd. You know what I'm saying? Like, even like Warrior being as bad as a worker he was, even Hogan said when he was with Savage, he knew he was in good hands because Randy was really professional with his, like, he really knew how to do it.
Either, though, but that's the thing, though. You have a lot of guys who couldn't stand each other in real life. Right. But they just had a chemistry that just worked so well together. Yeah. Because if you ever watched the Freebirds wrestle the Von Erichs, right? You just knew they hated each other because they were literally hitting the crap out of each other. Like you saw whelps. Like you saw when there was no pulling back when they're hitting with those boots. There's no pulling back when they're hitting with the strap. Like those guys, I mean, I cringed for them. I was like, good grief, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, the Road Warriors. Yeah, those guys. You really thought they were hurting the people they were wrestling. You know.
Well,
some of them they did. Yeah. Okay. Well, who they say was the stiffest guy? One of the stiffest workers. That, you know, sometimes they had to get chin checked. Like, hey, man, you know, you're too stiff. You need to calm that down.
So I tell you about something that happened recently. Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar.
I saw that. Braun
got him good, and Brock was like, "Yeah, you gotta get this receipt. You gotta get this receipt, homie."
And that's the wrong guy you want to be stiff with, man. This guy was a UFC champion.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. All right, I don't put nothing in that because was one thing we learned about the whole thing. I think, in my eyes, I could be wrong, but I think that it was set up to make him look the way he looked. Because I think when he got in there with a legit, because Cain Velasquez checked him hard.
He had him running circles. He was spinning around the cage.
You know, but don't get me wrong, everybody wins, everyone loses. You look at Holly Holm with Ronda Rousey.
Right.
Like everybody loses was not that. But I think sometimes the hype machine is much bigger than what the individual really is.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, because Brock is a big name. So Dana White knew Brock could put asses in the seat. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I get totally what you're saying.
Yeah, but I just, you know, and like Jerome, you know, one of the twins, you know, he's all into MMA. But I just, when it came to Brock Lesnar, I couldn't get into it. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, we about to wrap this up. Now we're going almost an hour. So I want to make this a thing, man, because there's so much to talk about with wrestling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
I'm
definitely
glad we come back on this.
Yeah. We need to get more into it. Yeah. So today our focus was more of, you know, when you first fell in love with wrestling, and then your favorite era, and then where it is now. So right now you're still a fan. I'm not. I'm kind of like with hip hop. I'm stuck in the 80s and the 90s. I can't listen to this stuff now. That's how I'm with wrestling.
So I'm gonna tell you like this right here. So what's gotta happen is I gotta take it to a show.
Okay.
I gotta take it to a show.
Okay.
We got to go to a show, and I think once you get there live, and just start with the smaller shows. Okay. Like I know they got WWE and ACW. They have Proving Grounds matches up down in Newport Richey.
Okay.
Maybe we need to go down there. And even though those guys are in school, I am telling you.
Yeah.
I mean, some great matches.
I'm willing. I mean, because I did have love for it, man. It breaks my heart that I don't anymore. So I'm open to do that. All right. Did Bret ever wrestle Chris Benoit? Those two were the two best technical wrestlers. I don't know if Bret ever wrestled.
I'm not
Benoit.
sure. I want to say I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
maybe in their younger years, I'm sure
Probably
they did.
so, yeah. Because Benoit was up there with the Hearts, wasn't he? Like, or was I'm thinking Dynamite Kid.
Well, Dynamite Kid was, but I mean, he was out of Canada, so I'm sure at some way and form still had some type of effect on him.
Gotcha.
But I'm not sure what schooling came from, because I didn't know about Benoit. Like, I didn't know about Benoit even in ECW. I didn't know about Benoit until his WCW.
WCW, yeah.
So
he was a beast too. Like he was Dynamite Kid 2.0, man.
Yeah, such a tragedy though.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Such a tragedy.
Very much so, man.
You know, but it's but I don't have any love lost for him. I'm not going to front. I think it was foul, but I still won't take away from the fact the guy was a great wrestler.
Great wrestler. Oh yeah, facts.
But
no.
but no.
Yeah, separating the art from the person, man. The guy was an awesome wrestler, yeah, but the person for what he did, he's a POS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, cuz I ain't gonna keep you, man. I appreciate you coming and sitting down, and this was fun doing this, man. You know, somebody that speaks my language. I can't talk. You know, I have a cousin China here a lot, but China don't talk wrestling. China,
no.
Yeah, China just talks trash and tries to get my pressure up.
Well,
yeah.
You know, y'all got the shows, we got wrestling.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, man. Yeah, for sure. Let's do this again, man. And
definitely.
And I would say to all you guys out there, man, thank you for coming in. Thank you for viewing. It's and check us out when we come back, man, because I'm telling you, it's gonna only get deeper and deeper. This is only the beginning. Because see, when you asked me about this, and I was like, "Oh, we talking wrestling?
Oh yeah,
we talk some language."
I knew it. Like,
talking my language now.
Listen, I just got to watching the Tony Atlas shoot. I was laughing. I said, "You know what? I have so much I want to talk about. Who can I get in front of the camera with me that knows their stuff?" Jerome, no brainer.
Oh, for sure,
no brainer,
for sure.
All right, so yeah, y'all, we about to check out. So check out the playback when this is, I guess, available. You know what I'm saying? And we'll be back soon talking more wrestling. So this is Rashad G signing out. Cousin Jerome here. Oh, by the way, if you like and dig this content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Notification bell in the corner when I go live again or when I post a video. And that's it, y'all. Get out my face. All right.
All right.
Okay. Now, how do I get everybody here in stream?
All right. I just want to look at the comments. Will it let me at least see the comments? Or no?
Let me see. Oh, yeah, you can. Let's see. Yeah, we didn't get too many comments, but mostly from Terrence. Can hip hop be the next topic?
Yeah, but I like that. And we missed on that one.
Oh, we did?
The Road Warriors versus Midnight.
Oh, yeah.